So, anywho, welcome to this is my Friday face. running around like a chicken with my head cut off. But I wanted to get with you guys to, as we're doing, and tell me if this is the case, because this is what I'm polling the group this afternoon, is would you benefit from, or would you rather, instead of the set meeting time, would you rather, let's say, have two different pieces of pre-recorded content to just hit your email inbox and view at your leisure on a weekly basis, including but not limited to the market update, the workshop, anything else too? Would that be something that you guys would prefer instead of the set time, 2 days a week?
I mean, it wouldn't matter to me either way. I think I like, although I realize I'm not letting y'all see me right now, but well, here, I'll let y'all see me real quick and you can see why. Hi.
Well, as long as your cat's not flying around in the background.
Not, but I haven't done anything. I'm laying in the chair and I haven't done anything yet. I got to work Main Street, so I'll pull myself together before I head out. But
okay, perfect.
But to me, it doesn't matter. But I do like, although I haven't always been able, and as we speak, one cat's coming up, I like being able to have some interaction. I mean, you know, having something, whether it was a meeting area or whatever. I like having some interaction with other people when we've been able to have that. But I know a lot of times I end up having to watch it recorded, so I could go in either camp.
Well, and I think really what it's going to take the form of is I think we're going to shoot for at least one a week, but a couple of different tilted, especially this market update and then the workshop. I think it might work better for you guys if it's just right there, and you know, it looks better. It's more well produced. It's not me sitting in a polo shirt in my hoarder office. You know, you guys might be able to then put it out to your clients or your sphere and showcase, or just share it with friends. So that's kind of my thought, but I appreciate the input, JD. I like the collaborative effect as well. I find sometimes that it's less engagement since we're doing this not in person, but you know, that's not going to last for forever, right? So anyhow, just a little mini update for that situation. So see that coming out sometime this afternoon. So as it relates to the update for July, we're at July 31st. We've got the numbers basically cumulative for the month, whether or not everything, you've got some more numbers to add in to the kitty because we're at the end of the month today. So the numbers may change a little bit slightly here in the Greenville market. But we do have a considerable amount of insight from the national perspective, drill it down a little bit into our basic Greenville numbers. And I also wanted to touch on what we discussed on Wednesday about how to get out there and actually make all this stuff work for you. So I think that it would be, it'll hopefully give you guys not just the snapshot of what's going on right now and what we need to be focused on, but also to give us the ability to say, hey, here's 2 or 3 things that I can actually go out and go do in the world right now, this afternoon, tomorrow, and going forward. So let's start with everybody's favorite thing, me messing around on PowerPoint to try and get this thing to work. Okay, there. So Realtor Magazine, I don't know if everybody's read the July edition yet, but Realtor Magazine, there's a quote in there that I find extremely interesting. And it's insofar as nearly 30% of respondents living in a high density urban area say that the pandemic is prompting them to want to move by the end of the year. I mean, does anybody find that to be earth shattering in terms of, wow, people are moving out of cities because they don't want to be up elbow to elbow with every single human being on planet Earth? That's not earth shattering. But the key piece here is this is more than double the rate of those living in rural parts of the country where residents are much more likely to stay put rather than to relocate. So what does that mean? It basically means, well, off the top of my head, yeah, absolutely. What we need to be doing right now is finding those outlets in major urban areas. And if anybody's been keeping track of these weekly updates, you'll remember last week I shared some information from a really helpful site called howmoneywalks.com, howmoneywalks.com, that shares with you the data about where people move from and to in migration and out migration. You guys can find, okay, here's where I need to start trying to at least focus my efforts in, if I have any connections or if I have any tangential connections or anybody that knows somebody that may live in one of these hotspot areas. For us, it's Connecticut, New Hampshire, New York, and then also, interestingly enough, kind of that Dade County, Miami, Florida market. We need to start leveraging that, but also we need to understand that folks that are moving from urban markets into rural markets, well, we still have an inventory shortage. And right now, just saying, oh, great, well, now what I need to do is just reach out to everybody that I know that lives on more than an acre and no, it's not really necessarily that. I think what the impetus for us is to focus on the fact that vast majority of those folks are urban and they're high end. And urban high end listings, I'll share with you guys where all these reports come from. Urban high end listings have hit record highs in markets like Chicago, Minneapolis, Detroit, New York, San Francisco. There's an amazing amount of uptick in high-end listings and a flight to suburban property, which what that means for me is there is definitely a need right now to help understand how we can provide high-end product, meaning new construction is a thing that needs to be focused on right now, but in a semi-urban, semi-rural type of a setting. I mean, that's why I really feel like new construction and home building is going to fuel the fire going forward, and it has to, because right now you see this juxtaposition of national numbers, which a lot of folks are trying to get the heck out of Dodge in big urban areas, and they're trying to come down to suburban neighborhoods. But well, the thing is that the inventory is not there, and the folks that are in the suburbs are much more likely to stay put as opposed to potentially sell their home right now and in the future. That's just what the numbers show. However, you can see this graphic on the left in terms of builder and consumer confidence. Builder confidence, and I'll share the article with you later, builder confidence is at a level that it hasn't been since the beginning of 2012, which it was pretty easy to be confident in 2012 because you had a vast need for new inventory because everything was so cheap and everybody bought it up in 11 and 12. And then that's what's led the rise that we've seen and followed all the way here to current in 2020. That graphic on the left is from HomeLight. And you'll see, and it's interesting, you see here in February, right before everything happened, you had this dearth of positivity in the marketplace. We were really zooming. And it was quite simply because of supply and demand. There was a small amount of homes and new inventory in the marketplace and meteoric buyer demand. March, we got kicked in the teeth. But you'll notice that it's interesting that now here in June 2020, despite the fact that the world has been a little bit upside down, you have this return to, I mean, right here, 88% of the agents surveyed in this study feel as if we are going to maintain our pricing levels or exceed them and continue on in the future. And the July numbers for GGAR that I'll share with you back that up in droves. You know, and the funny thing is that you look at this from the perspective of HomeLight and their statistics and buyer and consumer confidence. What you really see too is that, here's another statistic for you, Realtor.com in June, they haven't published the July numbers, saw 86 million unique users visit that website. So that is 86 million different people, not 86 million clicks. That's a record for Realtor.com, period. May of 2020 saw 85 million unique users. It means that buyer demand is here now more than ever. Now, whether or not they actually have something to go and buy, I mean, take this analogy with a grain of salt, but it's almost like we're the grocery store and houses are toilet paper 12 weeks ago. There's just not enough supply in our market to sustain. And I'll back it up with the fact that there's only 911 active properties on the market right now, beginning in July. That's insanely low. It absolutely does not outpace, and in fact is dwarfed by the amount of current solds and pendings in the marketplace. And that's why really for us, it's on us to help figure out, like I talked about on Wednesday, it's on us to help figure out what the options are for people that may or may not be considering buying or selling. Those folks that are considering selling, but just are trying to wait till they find the perfect house, or they may or may not be experiencing some economic hardship and they're just unsure, don't know what to do. It's right now is finding the folks that aren't reaching out to you because they're scared and they don't know what's up. It's for us to help turn this around, deliver the value, deliver the education piece, and to help them move forward into an action state, right? So again, you've got buyer data, showings, closings, all signs pointing to a V-shaped recovery. It's an ugly V, but it's a V nonetheless. And that there is a dramatic focus on rural moves from urban areas. Now, it doesn't necessarily impact downtown Greenville as much, although it has taken a hit in terms of the high-end luxury condo market downtown. It's still, Greenville presents a unique proposition in that you have suburban, quote unquote, property that's essentially walking distance to our downtown. So we have a unique opportunity in front of us. And one of the things that really buttresses this NAR market recovery survey, and you'll get that as well, I think that's an incredibly good piece for you to be able to have and study and know, because it's just exactly that, NAR's market recovery survey. And based on the data that NAR's found, we have recovered in terms of the housing industry. Now, will that continue for forever? Nothing continues forever. The market is always changing. However, right now, what we've got in terms of a recovery, yes, there are forbearances and foreclosures on the horizon, but it's not what Susie Orman thinks it's going to be. Because you have right now a number in terms of three things. You have household savings, which nationwide have crept close to 10%, and that number has never been there, ever. Close to 10% on average for household savings. You have home equity at levels, I've talked about this a million different times, you got more than 30% of the homes in the United States have more than 20% equity. That's not going to lead to a rash of foreclosures. There are going to be some, I get it, but there may be somebody in your life or in your sphere or in your group that may be having some economic hardship, but could benefit from either one of a couple of things. One, refinancing their loan. Two, figuring out what the heck it was that they did when they applied for or notified. Basically, you just clicked a button on Wells Fargo or wherever and said, yes, I would like forbearance. Poop. And then they didn't really do anything about it. Educating them about what the forbearance process actually looks like, what it implies for them in terms of their financial future, and then helping them understand how their equity works. So the refinance piece, working with them if they're in a position of hardship, or two, figuring out how to help sell the home to help them capture all of that equity that they've built up or may not have, or just sell and take advantage of a good real estate market to help them get into a place of where, okay, I think now we can weather the storm. Are things going to be great and yay, and we're going to have a unicorn in the front yard when you sell? No, it's not going to be like that. But at least there's the opportunity to say, listen, this sucks, but we've got options. Let's figure out what we can actually do. Or, hey, by the way, I know that you think that your situation might be X, but it's actually Y. And here's how we're going to get from this place to that place. And a lot of that revolves around having these numbers and helping people find their options. And the final piece for that economic market recovery survey is consumer confidence. And consumer confidence in terms of real estate purchases remains at a level greater than 65% of people that are buyers in the marketplace. Now you look at real estate agents and 88% say we're going to be steady or grow, with 50 saying we're going to grow. In terms of a buyer sentiment standpoint, you've got greater than 65% of the buyer pool saying that right now they feel like real estate prices are going to stay the same or increase. So we're always going to be more, not optimistic, but we're always going to be more with our ear to the ground about what's actually happening in the marketplace. It's time for us to help capture those folks that are in that 60, not necessarily in that 65%, but it's the people that are really unsure. That's the big gap in terms of consumer confidence and consumer sentiment. There's a much larger cohort, only 8% in the realtor category, but in the consumer cohort, consumer confidence, there's about 20% of people in the economy that say that they're not sure. You know what? I'm not sure, but I do know what the numbers say. And if I know what the numbers say, I can help myself be much more educated and be much less scared, worried, nervous, or just completely clueless as to how to make a decision going forward, whatever that might be. Maybe the decision is no decision. Maybe the decision is figure out a way to capitalize on my equity because I just got laid off from my job and I really don't know what I'm going to do because I'm in a hyper-focused industry, or whatever the actual goal is. Or I've been at home and now I absolutely need a home office and my home is caving in on me and I've got to move and I'm set with my job. I'm okay. I have some security here, but I need to go find it. But I'm worried that I'm not going to be able to find something that I want. So then I'm not going to list my house until I find the right home. Well, that's the wrong option for them as well, because they have a need. We need to meet the need with education, data, and then also our hard freaking work right now. So let's look at this too. This is another one from HomeLight, talking about consumer confidence. Look through the different graphics of seller's market, balanced market, buyer's market, et cetera. You look how in March, that number fell from 77 all the way down to less than 50 in terms of a seller's market. I don't necessarily think that that number from a nationwide perspective is true, but what it does help illustrate is just exactly how quick that came up. Because you notice the first 3 tick marks are all months. Then we jump into 15-day increments. So from April 1st to June 10th, we were already above where we were in February. And our company-wide numbers and the GGAR-wide numbers back that number up, because our local housing market conditions right now are definitely back into at least 3/4 seller's market, 1/4 buyer's market. Notice that I said 3/4 of a seller's market, 1/4 of a buyer's market. So that's the need for inventory right now, but yet also to quality inventory. The flight to quality inventory is here, and it's about identifying the opportunities that exist so that we can capitalize on the conditions that we have right now. So what's Greenville look like for July? Average days on market ticked down from 59 to 58. That's essentially a static number, but still, in terms of a historical average, that days on market number, when you couple in all of the data that goes through GGAR from your high number of 3,360 some odd days and your low of 0, that average days on market really takes a turn when you find out that the median days on market is somewhere around 20. Now that number gets skewed because you're not looking at what needs to happen and how you manipulate this data, not manipulate it, how you curtail or customize this data to the people that you're speaking to, either buyers or sellers, is to really get in there and get granular on the price point, the number of bedrooms. This is the entire market. This is what we can share with everybody to say, these are the facts, right? We get down into the nitty gritty and you've got a $450,000 to $400,000 to $500,000 price point that their average days on market's about 100. You get in the under 100,000, the average days on market's about 12. So, and you get 3-bedroom, 1-bath homes, their average days on market ticks up to nearly 90 days. So we got to get in there and find out what the big piece of the data means for this small subset of the area in which I'm working and living in, right? Average sales price, $279,836. That's ticked up almost $4,000 from the month of June. And inventory in June was about 2.5 months. We're under 2 months of inventory right now. Currently 911 active beginning July 1st. Couple that with 1,334 solds. So that's what this data is. This is out of 1,334 transactions in the month of July, closing date starting July 1st to current. We're going to have some more come in here. So this number could go up and down accordingly, but it's going to be right around here. And you've got 460 right now pending contracts. So what that means is that all those pendings aren't going to close today. But what we're looking at is about 1,400, let's be conservative, say 1,450 homes will close in Greenville this month. That is above the general historical average. They're closing for an average sales price of $279,000, and they're staying on the market for just a little bit less than 2 months, which essentially means that you're going on average about 30 days till you catch a contract. The telling number there is inventory. Now, I know that this is a funny time and that not everybody wants to be out there whether physically or just period. Some folks have some hesitation about doing that. What I'm thinking is, let's pause the brakes on this getting out there, meaning going to go sell. It's going out there to go find opportunity to help educate the clients that we serve, and having a plan to actually utilize that to help people that need our help. Because I mean, you look at this, we're still on a not, and you look at the transposition of whether or not we're going to stay steady or we're going to grow in terms of pricing. I'm not here to say that the next 6 months you're going to see 4, 6, 8, 10% appreciation, because we're not. It's not going to happen. And in fact, you've got 90 days really until we may in fact even see softening, because historically every 4 years there's a softening of the real estate market in the month of November, and it's for the first 3 weeks in November. You may see that. I don't know. I don't think we're going to see any softening in prices. I think we're going to see a softening of activity, just because it happens every single time. But we can just look to what that average number is. And also to the median. You can just take and see that there's a bump there, lagging indicator from March and April, that bounced down in May, and we all saw a downtick in May. But in June, July, we've come back on track. Not to go crazy through the roof, but there's a steady climb. And so how do you make it work for you? Because that's what I really want to help with today. And so number one, like what we've been talking about, we have to just throw the net out bigger. What does that actually mean? And right now, what it means is that we can't let somebody go by the wayside that we may or may not want to reach out to right now. It has to be everybody. I know that's a daunting task, because our spheres or our network, we may in fact need to do an audit of who we haven't talked to in a while. I mean, I say we start with the past clients in sphere, reach out to everybody, your current clients, your past clients in sphere, and check in on them to see if everything's okay, number one, but number two, to just ask them, are you curious how the market's going right now? Because the answer might surprise you. And you're not going to do that to everybody, but right now we can't, to parlay a term, we can't throw the baby out with the bathwater at this point in time, because there's so much negativity, opinion-based news. There's so much of that. And I'm not trying to discount the fact that stuff stinks for a lot of people. Like what I use the example, if you're in a situation where you've lost your job or you're hurting and you've already gone into forbearance, or you've missed a couple of rent payments, or stuff's getting kind of sideways on you in your business life that's affecting how your home ownership situation is, that's not a good thing. But it's also something that we can step in and help be the voice of education, reason, and then options to help them get going forward. And how we do that is to arm yourself with the numbers. I mean, I'm not trying to overplay this by saying that we're in a fight right now, but we are in a fight with all the other stuff that's going on in the world. And the one thing that we can control is how many times we reach out to folks. So essentially the number of times that you either pick up the phone or text somebody or message them or see somebody and say something if you see them out in public. And then the next piece to that you can control is what comes out of your mouth, and how we can sidestep opinions and think and, how's the market? Everything's busy. I'm super slammed. And that person goes, That's not what I was asking you. I am coming from a place, so I'm nervous. I am unsure as to whether or not my house is dropping in value. I didn't ask if you were busy or not. I said, how's the market? What it means is I'm wondering about my own home's value. So how to meet that in the middle, one, is to have all the data that you need. Like I said, take what I've got and make it your own. Figure out where you're working, where your area of expertise is. Heck, even run your own sales numbers to showcase what you've been doing during this period of time. And then educate those folks. It's the opportunity right now that we are in the position of being able to be gifted with the fact that we can educate. And the more that we educate the folks that we're working with, the more that we can actually make a difference in how their decision-making process can be shaped and almost corrected, if you will, if they're in a position of bumped up against rock between a hard place. And finally, we just got to be creative. We have to understand that right now we can get down in there and get funky with options for folks. Whether it's working through people that may be in a position of financial hardship, whether it's folks that are sitting on the fence about selling and they understand that it's a good time to sell right now, but they just say, you know, I think we're just going to wait around until the right house comes along. We don't want to list until we find the house that we want to buy. Wrong. There's options there. Whether it's a lease back, whether it's a long closing period, whether it's a contingency for a first right of a 14-day window for them to go find another house, to go find a house if there's an offer that comes in, or something that we're not even thinking about. Because the buyer demand is there, the supply is not. Let's get creative with our options. If somebody's looking to buy a home, well, you know what? Now might be the right time for them to really whittle it down and say, point blank period, the best question that you can ask anybody that's thinking about buying or is not really completely convinced that they want to sell their house, but you can kind of tell that they might, is to say, I got a quick question for you, and I really would be kicking myself if I didn't ask this. With everything that's going on, are you living in your dream house? It's not going to be that if it's yes, I'm living in my dream house. You've been over there 6 months ago when we could actually hang out at other people's house. This is the best house ever. Perfect. What's the likely scenario? They're going to be, or well, no, actually, tell you the truth, I need a place to work. I've got my laptop on a banker's box in this office that's full of crap everywhere, and I got to get out of here. But there's nothing to buy. Okay, let's have an opportunity to then say, I get it. Everybody's reassessing what they want. And, you know, there's a recent survey from HomeLight talking about the top 10 things that people really want in their home. What are you most interested in? And let's go sit down and figure out what we could do to chart a path going forward. Let's go pick your dream house. And then I don't care if it's on the market right now, but I'm going to go start looking for that thing that's your dream home. And oh, by the way, we've got tools and systems in place that we can then go find that shadow inventory, or I can just point simple, go to work for you in that neighborhood or in that category that you're looking for to help you go find the thing that you need. Let's get creative. Let's armor ourselves for the fight that we're having right now with the world at large. Not saying that we're fighting, but we are in a battle to have truths come out, and then truth and thoughtfulness put together with action helps you get to where you want to go. It's easier said than done, but it's not rocket science. And again, like I said on Wednesday, we've basically got 90 days until that November question mark, right? To help continue the momentum of the housing market, to ensure ourselves that that softening of activity doesn't mean a softening in the market writ large. We got to keep showing up, we got to keep doing our thing, and we got to keep doing the things that actually get us into action, run the plays that work, and get out there and showcase how we're the knowledge and the voice of reason in the marketplace. And that's really the only thing that's going to help us propel the housing industry right now and going forward. I'll open it up for some questions. If you guys have any questions or any thoughts about anything. And don't forget, we got 90 days. Make a commitment, whatever it is. If you need to really feel like you got to make 15 contacts a week, that's fine. If you want to make 5 a day, even better. We got to get out there and find a way to help pump the education piece of our business.